And that is La Diva. Welcome to Spirituality Gone Wild. I am Debbie G, here for a really special edition of Cuppa Grata with a shot of expression and two squirts of reality. Today, I have a co-squirt that's going to knock your socks off. She's fabulous. I am so excited to introduce everybody to Sylvia Lafair. Welcome, Sylvia, to Spirituality Gone Wild.
Hey, Debbie, I am so glad to be here.
Oh,
Talk about a diva and a wild lady. You are it in the
thank
good
you.
term.
In a good term, everybody. It's in a good term. Oh, darn right. I am so excited that you're here. Was that not fabulous, though, just now?
Oh, I was moving it. Yeah.
Moving and grooving. I mean, it is noon here on the West Coast, so it's just what you need to get moving and grooving and get our blood pumping and take a deep dive into getting gutsy because that's what this episode is all about, getting gutsy. Sylvia, what would possess you to write a book called Gutsy? I mean, seriously.
Well, guess what? I'm a woman.
I love that.
And I grew up. It's interesting. In the beginning of Gutsy, I have some questions that you have to answer. It's kind of like, what would you respond? Little girls should always fill in the blank. Do that for me. Little girls should always.
Do you want me to do it like from now?
Yeah,
Be
right
happy.
now.
Be happy.
Okay. And good girls would never.
Be mean on purpose.
Oh, that was lovely. Yeah. So, we've been making changes from the last decade, especially. We've been moving things in a very incredible way. But
Yeah.
when I was, and I was lucky. I was the young, I have an older brother. I don't have any. I wish I had a sister. I didn't have any sisters. But as I was growing up, it was good girls behave. Good girls don't this. You're cute, so and I get away with things. But being gutsy, and I early learned how to speak out, and it got me in trouble.
Yep.
What can I tell you?
I kind of somehow I get that. It probably did. And I also get the speaking out and getting in trouble for that. Back in the day, if I had answered those same questions years ago, it would have been good girls don't sleep around. Good girls, good girls, hold hands. Like I was brought up in the 70s and 80s, but seriously, you're taught this. You have to act like a lady. You have to be a lady. You serve your husband dinner. You take care. I mean, the old school is old school. So I'm actually in shock as you ask me these questions. It's like what came through now versus what would have came through.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to you getting in trouble because you would speak out. Let's talk about that. So you were using your voice and you were being shunned for using your voice. Now, how did that feel?
Well, it made me think I better shut up.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. This was when I was about 15, I guess, and I was at overnight camp. And you're in bunks, and it's all girls there. I mean, there was a boys' side of it too, so we would see them at parties in the evening. But there was one gal in the bunk that was the scapegoat. Not me. That was never me. But she was very sad, and I'll never forget the day we were going in rowboats on the lake, and we had to pick partners. And I was talking to somebody. I was late, and the only one left was this Mary Beth. So I said, all right, we'll go. And I didn't particularly like her either, but we get in the rowboat and she started telling me how unhappy she is and how mean the mean girl stuff.
Yeah.
We come back and my heart had opened. It had been closed, but it opened listening to her. So my other friends called me over and they said, why are you still talking to her? And I said, well, she's really nice and we should include her. And they went, oh, Sylvia. They walked away and I was shunned for about a week. So my only friend was Mary Beth. And I thought,
Right.
well, I was missing the fun. But I learned when you speak up, you have to be prepared for the backlash. Anyway, we integrated her by the end of the summer. She was in the group and we all had learned a lot. So
That's a
when you
gorgeous
speak
story.
out, you better be ready for what's next.
So you better know your truth. What I'm hearing you say here is really important. Like you better know that when you're speaking your truth, that you're ready to stand in the truth.
Absolutely.
And I get that. I thinking of spaces in my life where that was so. I would get told, that people always have an opinion. I mean, you know what the saying is. So, and it's can you so there's this resilience that's built, Sylvia, over time when you have to over and over again stand in your truth for who and what you believe in. So, what other times do you have like that that you've really had to step into who you are against popular opinion?
Well, here's one that was in my early business days.
Okay.
I was the staff psychologist at Catholic Social Service. I
Uh,
also was the only non-Catholic on the whole staff. I don't know why they hired me.
I'm just okay. How did that work? Did you just not do? I mean,
I
that's
don't know.
interesting. That's a well. Is that? Oh, I bet. Oh, go ahead with the story because I
There's a
bet that's how
story here. There was a story.
I
Okay.
can't wait.
So there are two of them. One of them was we would go down to coffee break, and it was mostly the social workers. I was on the floor with the administrators. So I was on with all the big shots because I was the psychologist. They were the social workers on the third floor. I was on the second floor. But they were my friends. And one day we were there. Remember, it's Catholic Social Service, and we were talking about kids. And I wasn't pregnant yet. I was married, but not pregnant. And we were talking about how many, and they looked at me and said, "How many children are you going to have?" I said, "Two," and that's all.
Somehow I see that too. That's it.
So that's it. So we get into this big discussion, and I said, "Why is it that most of you hold back in what you say?" And they looked at me like, "Well, that's what you're supposed to do." Now, here's what happened. It was time to give to the United Fund, and you had a card that was given to you, and they said you have to give 10%. And I looked at the salary range, and none of us were making enough money to give that kind of money. So I said, that's not fair. And they said, but that's what we've always done. I said, well, I'm not doing it. So I get called into the CEO of that social service office, and she said, Sylvia, I think you don't understand. And I said, like what? I said, it's not fair. I'm really a big proponent for fairness. So she said, but that's what we've always done, which is part of what Gutsy is about. Why do we do it? Because that's what we've always done. What are the questions we have to? So anyway, I figured if she fires me, I'll get another job somewhere. And at some point, she leaned over and she said, "Do you always get your way?" And I said, "No, but this time I know I'm right." And I was thinking of my friends and colleagues who were not making that much money. And so I didn't, she said, okay, we'll let this pass. So we did not win that year as giving the top because I went back to coffee break, which is where the conversations went, and said, I still have my job. And they said, how did you do that? I said, this is where it is. Somewhere I must have learned, I don't know, speaking the truth. And then you have to be willing to accept the consequences. And I was. I mean, I would not have stayed. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed. I would have been fired. But that one was an easier one for me. So then there was a big meeting with some really high level people coming in, and there was a reception line, and I was in line, and the head of the agency introduced me to the big mucky muck guy who was there, and he said, this is Sylvia. And he looked at me, he said, oh. And he looked at her, he said, is that the one? I scooted away about as fast as I could. But those are the moments that, and I've done that my whole life. I've always been a questioner. And I would get in trouble for it when I was younger. But one of the things I've learned is if you wait long enough, it will start to smooth out. And those who really are against you, what are you going to do with it? So I've learned not to hold back for the most part.
So what I've heard you say is this is you live fearlessly. You are not going and so what stops a lot of people, and if there's anybody watching this now or on the replay, have you ever not spoken your truth out of fear for what the reactions would be? And if you are in that space right now, I encourage you to ask yourself the question, what's the worst that's going to happen? Can you live with it? If you're not sure, what I want you to do is go buy this book. It's called Gutsy. It's really good. As a matter of fact, we're going to go into to a question. And one of the things I love about you, observe, understand, and transform, because what you're talking about is is living fearlessly, living from your gut, and living from your truth. And what you do is you teach how to do that. And that's the
Yes.
importance of this book. And I want to talk about this part here. It's page 5, everyone. Once you learn to observe the behavior patterns that cause dissonance, they lose their power over you. Wow. Can you unpack that?
Well, I think that that's the first thing you have to do. And we have our symbol for observe is this. You have to kind of look down on yourself and observe. And this is a funny story. You know, I was a mother at this point and I was a business person. Now, as a kid, I have an older brother and he was kind of king of the hill. So if I wanted attention, I had to have a hissy fit. So I became a master hissy fitter. I mean, I was Academy Award hissy fit. I mean, I could lie down on the carpet saying, I will die from this, you know, I'm fine. But, you know, so I learned it, right? So that's deep in my nervous system. I'm now a businesswoman and I'm at work. And one day I'm a consultant with various companies and I'm in a meeting and somebody said something that, forgive me, but it was really stupid. And I slammed my hand down on the table. You know, I was unconscious of but I went, now that we really have to talk about. And I saw some eyes rolling in the room. And at some point, I heard somebody say, oh my God, she just gets so dramatic. Well, I figured, what do they know? It worked. The group went on. Later in the afternoon, I'm at another meeting, different group, different situation, same Sylvia, right? I'm the constant in this. And somebody does something, and I knew not to hit the table, but I went, wait, that has to change. And as we're walking out, somebody said, you know, Sylvia, sometimes you do drama a little too much. And I thought, what do they know? You know, it worked, right? That evening, 3 is the magic number. That evening, I'm home and my younger daughter, Julie, calls they're in college at the time, and she calls to tell me something. I went, oh, Julie, that is ridiculous. She said, you know, Mom, when you get that dramatic, there's no talking to you. So how about if I hang up and we talk another time? Clink. And I looked at the phone and I went, I was really annoyed. But I thought 3 times in one day, and I had to really get at observation that the only constant in all of this was Sylvia. And the drama queen wasn't working. So
Mm,
that's where the observe began to happen. And
yeah.
we all have these things we do, Debbie, you know that, and I know that, that in different situations, it'll still show up. Either you shout it out or you stuff it down, but it's a constant. That's the observe part of that. Make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I love this. So what I really dig right now is that how you're just owning your stuff. And you're just like, I get the drama thing. And the fit throwing thing very well. I am the oldest, so I just I get angry.
Mm.
And when I have this because it's just this thing. No, 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 no. The constants, Debbie, the constants, Sylvia, the constants, you who's watching, that ownership of that is crazy. The observation, what I heard you talking about is when you're observing, you're also observing. They call that observing from the space of source.
Mm-hmm.
Observe. This is where you are not observing from your ego, but from your heart conscious resonance. I believe that's what that you are saying that you had to do. You had to sit and observe you, and then and then recognize what you needed to recognize. And what did you recognize?
Well, that's where the you from outcomes, the understand. Then I think we all have to go back because these patterns are deep in our nervous system. And I already gave you the clue that because my brother was king of the hill, for me to be heard, I
Heard.
had to, yeah, I did my drama.
So,
But it wasn't working in the workplace. You know, it wasn't my parents saying, oh, be quiet or we'll listen to you. And my brother going, oh, there she goes again. It was the workplace saying, what the hell is she doing? What
yeah,
is she
yeah.
doing? So
Well,
I had
I
to
got
learn it.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm just loving this. This is scrumptious information. And the reason it is because it's free. It's huge. With the
Yep.
minute that you can just start owning it, because that's big. And I love that your brother was king of the hill, that you had to throw fits, but to recognize the basic human needs here, to be heard, to be seen, to be
And
loved, to be
appreciated. Mm-hmm.
acknowledged, appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
most definitely recognized. Notice we're not using the word validated here.
Good.
Just those other things that are more important, I think, but the basic human need. What I also love is how that you've traced it all the way back to a starting point in order to break the pattern. You were bringing up patterns, which brings us to page 36, which is understand. When you
Right.
understand where these patterns developed, your life puzzle comes together in new and fascinating ways.
You're
Okay.
right. Well, let
Uh,
me tell you
well,
another.
you're right because I kind of read that. You wrote it. By the way, did I mention it's page 36 in the book Gutsy, which you could get right here on Amazon? Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's unpack that.
Well, here's what's interesting because observing it without going down to the deeper understanding, it still keeps you locked. So the understanding, and I'm going to tell you, this is an interesting story. We were doing a program for veterans called Veterans Unstoppable, and there was a woman who had been in Iraq and had come back, and she she just wasn't willing to ever go on a vacation, and so she began to observe it, and her reasoning was guilt of survivorship. You know, I came back fine. I didn't lose an arm, a leg, or a life. And what right do I have a lot of fun when so many people who have been in the military suffer? Got it? We took her from observe, which she did, to understand. And this is where it became shocking to me also. She went back and began to track where she had the fear of going on vacations. And it turned out when she was about 4, they went on vacation. They came back. The grandfather died. When she was about 9, they went on a vacation. They came back. The parents announced they were getting divorced. So, and 2 or 3 other things happened. So for her, not going on a vacation was not so much in the here and now with what had happened in the last 3 or 4 years or 5 years in her life. It really was back there. If I go on vacation, something horrible is going to happen. So I
Mm,
better not.
yeah.
So once
Yeah.
you go down and begin to track the understanding part of this, you have a much wider lens in which to operate, which leads us to ta-da, transform.
Transformation. I love this. So curiosity is something that you're using a lot of.
Yeah.
And going back to where it started. Now here's because this is pattern breaking here. What I'm curious about, like, okay, so is it safe to consider that you're most likely reacting from a pattern based perspective than you are from what's really happening and transpiring because of the old patterning belief systems that are still kind of edged in there?
Well, you've got it. That's exactly it. And that's been the work that my husband and I have been doing for 30 years or so. Feels like 5 at this point, but for a long time. Once we began to see how these patterns were and interacted, and then I'll tell you a quick one about in our marriage, but I'll save it for transform, because that's where the real energy of all of this comes. Because, I can say, okay, so Sylvia's the drama queen and I have to be careful, but I don't want to stamp my forehead and say, hello, I'm a drama queen, or somebody else is a victim, or somebody this. I want to say, okay, what's the flip of that? The
Yeah.
flip of the drama queen or king, there are plenty of drama kings out there too, is to become a good storyteller. And the reason for that is, when you have a hissy fit, you get a lot of adrenaline. It's fun. I mean, it's like a kick, but it doesn't lead anywhere. When you're a good storyteller, the adrenaline rush is still there, but you have direction, you have purpose, you're doing it for a reason. So we came to the transform part of when we were developing this and said, so what are we going to transform? Okay, so the storyteller, the drama queen becomes a good storyteller. The victim becomes an explorer. It's like you flip it over and you have the same amount of energy, only to do something positive. So here's the story relationship wise, because it works everywhere. It's at work, it's at home, it's in the community, it's in politics, it's everywhere. So here's Sylvia, the drama queen, and here's my husband, Herb, who grew up in a family where when conflict came, they just shut it down and they left. So his nature when we were first together, if we had an upset, is he'd grab the car keys and he'd leave. Gone out, take a walk, well, to take a drive, to just get away. So one day we were in the middle of whatever the heck was going on. I have no idea. And he said to me, sit down. And I said, why? So you can get the keys and leave faster and I can't follow you? He said, no, I'm sitting down too. And I thought, well, what the heck is this going to be about? And he said, the avoider becomes an initiator. Rather than running, they're the ones that start the conversation. You love it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's hot. That's
Yeah.
great. Oh, that's really good.
So he sat
Yeah.
down and he said, we're going to solve this. If this is the work, our work that we're doing with other people, we better figure it out for ourselves. So we sat down and he was the initiator. Now, as he brought the issue, whatever the heck it was, the drama queen in me had no place to go. It was like this great big balloon that was going out of air. I had to sit and listen to him. I couldn't have a hissy fit. And we solved whatever the issue was in probably 10 minutes. Had we been in the old patterns, the drama queen and the avoider, we could have gone for a couple of days,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
so you have to learn about yourself, but you're also looking at where other people fit in all of this so we can help each other with it. So we
Yeah.
came up with a list of 13 of the most common patterns that were there for us as we were growing up. And they're generations old. We'll talk about that in a minute, but they're generations old. And the transformations. That to me is the most exciting part of the work we do, is that you really look at the transformation and you work with it. And once you do, things happen more effectively, more interestingly, and more honestly, and more joyfully
Yeah.
most of the time.
I dig this. And it also brings us to page number 67 in that really awesome book that's behind her. It's Gutsy.
I have to see
Then,
what's on page 67.
well, I'm going to tell you right now. It's transform. Then with strength training, ta-dam, you can transform the patterns to their positive opposites. This is what she's been talking about. This is just
Yeah.
such good stuff. And and become a leader. This one's a woman leader who truly makes change happen. Truly makes change happen. And also what I heard you say, the change begins with me. as we
Mhm.
all hear. So everybody, they get these terms that start floating around, and everybody, the change begins with me. The change begins with me, and it's just so good to say. But what does that look like in action? If you
Yeah.
missed if you missed the last 5 minutes after, go watch the replay, and you'll see what that looks like. And we're going to get into it a little bit more. It looks like it looks like opposite. I love the opposites game. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great. You can literally play a game with this. I
Maybe we
mean,
should make
wow.
one. I bet you could make a
Seriously.
game with me with this. That's good, Debbie. I love it.
I just think it's just so much fun. It's like, ah, all these great tools, but let's talk, let's unpack and go into. You are a great storyteller, by the way. So obviously you've honed this, and I'm loving that.
Yeah. Better than being
Ah,
a drama queen
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. The
most
drama
of the
queen.
time.
Well, the drama. I was really good on stage, so
I bet you were.
oh yeah, I loved being on stage, and my mom had to keep me busy, so I was in theater and guitar lessons and tennis lessons and jumping from the top of the. Anyway, I was a busy child, so drama. But now we're going to talk about opposites. So if you are a drama king or a drama queen, stay tuned. We're going to flip it. Ready to do some flipping, everybody? It's like pancake time. Flip it. So transformation, how does that work? How would somebody, let's go over the third list of the 13, and then also what transformation looks like, because you're really unpacking it in a way that I think is very clear for people to grasp. For me
Well,
anyway.
I think what I've learned when we put the 13 together, it's a big list. So we'll stay right now, I think, if it's okay with you, with maybe the four that I think are so prevalent for women,
Mhm.
and one of them, and I'll bet you almost all the women watching this could raise their hand, or many, the pleaser. We were programmed for eons to be pleasers. And in the book, I go back, I did a lot of digging into history. Where did all of this start? And it started probably back in cave people time when, men were the brute strength and women were less. But the pleaser says yes. In their mind, they're thinking, you've got to be kidding. You want me to do what? Again? I don't want to. And the pleaser, I'll tell you this story and how it transforms. So I'm in a meeting, and there's a gal who was the director in a company, and the guy he owned about four businesses, and he was obsessed with buying businesses. He didn't want to run them. He just wanted to buy them. It was fun. She was supposed to run them. And she and her team were getting into utter overwhelm. So we're in a meeting, and he had just decided to purchase another company. And he had told me before the meeting, I said, well, bring it up in the meeting and see what reaction you get. Because I knew they were in overwhelm. So we're in the meeting, and he said, I want to start this new company. And Laura, the gal I'm talking about, looked at him and said, well, who do you intend to have run this? And he looked at her and said, well, you and your team. And she said, respectfully, but she said clearly, I don't think that'll work. And I'm learning from Sylvia. I thought I was going to get fired for this, but he said, I'm learning from Sylvia that no is a complete sentence.
Oh, hot damn. No is a complete sentence. Who wants to type that in the chat? Learning to say no
Yeah.
eloquently. So, okay, so how did he react to that?
So he looked like he was a deer in the headlight. So
I
I
could
did.
imagine, poor
And
guy.
anybody out there who's a consultant, I'm going to give you my best tip as a consultant. When moments like that come, take a break. So I said, why don't we take a little break now? And I took Laura and this guy, and we went in a room, and he said, you've never done that before. And she said, I never had the tools because I was a pleaser. And I'm learning to be a truth teller now.
Rock on.
Rock
Woo!
on. Now, let me tell you one thing. There's another sentence that you need. Telling the truth is not spilling your guts. Telling the truth is
Oh,
you love it? That was years of learning.
I'm over here just, oh.
I'm loving
Oh,
your reactions. Yeah.
yeah, it takes a minute to grasp this one, trust me. I was like because yeah, oh, go ahead.
Well, it's very interesting. So back in this meeting, so he was like, he didn't know what to do. So he looked at me. He said, "Why did I hire you? I want to keep buying companies." I said, "Then you're going to have to get more people to run them." And we made the decision in that meeting that he would hold off. And so we went back, and the team, they were all chit chatting, wondering what the heck was going on in that closed room. We come back, and he said, "I've learned something." And it was mostly women who worked in his company. And he said, "I am so used to everybody just saying yes all the time that I've always done what I wanted because nobody ever said no. So I
Mm,
will hold off buying the company now. It's not that urgent, and we will get more people." And Laura became an absolute heroine in the company for a while. So let me go back. So somebody in the meeting, we're still in the meeting. This is where you have to learn, when do you let people talk and keep going, and when do you say enough. Telling the truth is not spilling your guts. One, truth sentences. I've done research for years on this. Truth sentences are short. They're not run-on sentences, and they're not paragraphs. So I've sat in rooms where people have told the truth, and then I've said, I look around to see what's going in, and usually there's 7, 9, maybe 12 words, and that's it. You're done. This isn't working for us right now. We need to stop. Period. It's truth sentences. They're short. They're not necessarily elegant. They're short. No, mother to a child. No, you cannot stay out past 11 o'clock. These are in the days when everybody could still go out.
yeah.
No. And there will be consequences. So pay attention. You don't even have to go into the details of what the consequences would be, but it's the truth. They say the truth will set us free. That's been one of my big research projects. And so far, I have found it true.
I'm just soaking this up. It's like being in the Bahamas and having the most gorgeous day, you're soaking up the rays. That's it, everybody. So just keep soaking it up. And I have to tell you, we have some outstanding comments from the audience today. Let's just take a minute and look at what's going on here. Jed, wow. Share and divide the times. That's right. And going in positive opposites. Mhm.
Perfect.
Nice. Plant that gate. Flip the script.
Oh, I
We've got
love that. Flip the script. That's perfect. Yeah.
our own Steve Weber is no is a complete sentence. Uh, Denise Chadwick, no is a complete sentence. Boom. You guys would love it, right? This is some rock star stuff, truth teller. It is. Ah, yes. And Shar said, I am a pleaser and it makes me resentful.
Mm. It makes every pleaser resentful because it builds
Yeah.
up and builds up and builds up. And this is where, when you think about stress, think of a pitcher,
Yeah.
and you're pouring water in the pitcher, and you're pouring, and it's fine. You keep pouring. But then at some point, the pitcher's full. And that one drop that can't be in that is where you just finally lose it.
Mm,
And pleasers have to learn, you don't have to keep that pitcher going up. You can keep it half full. You can keep it 3/4 full.
yeah.
But there's a place where you're going to finally pop, when you're upset. Now I want to add something to the truth because this is important. No is a complete sentence. And here's a second sentence you can go with that is, there's no need to defend, explain, or justify. When you're clear about your no, it's not about defending, explaining, or justifying. Period.
Yeah, let that really sink in, everybody. This is huge. This is how to break codependent behavior patterns in a nutshell. No, in an eggshell. Sorry.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Because if you'll notice, she's got the cutest eggshell that's kind of cracked and it says Gutsy, and it was her daughter
Yeah.
Michaela that introduced her to the artist of this book. And Michaela is awesome. G Fest, you guys, Goddess Fest, got to check it out. But back to the
I'll keep it here
Gutsy.
where you can see
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
let's just right there and right here floating across the screen is her is Sylvia's website. So you can go right on there and you get this book immediately. There's also some courses that you can take to work with Sylvia as well. I want to put your name up here so that we have that. Expectation is premeditated resentment when everyone is not like you, is what Jed has to say.
perfect. Exactly right. Yeah.
That is really sweet. I love that. So let's go on to the next one. We're on to 3 of the 4. I'm
Uh,
counting.
okay, so we did the drama queen, we did the pleaser, the martyr. The martyr.
Oh no, Kevin's gonna hide.
That's
Oh,
not you, Debbie, is it? No.
shit.
Well, you
Yeah.
hide that
God.
beautifully.
Oh yeah, let's do this one. This is good. I'm gonna own it, you guys. Believe me, trust me. I will. Go for it.
Well, the
Yeah.
martyr is very interesting because as women, um, they are male martyrs too, of course, but and I'm not talking about somebody like a Martin Luther King who's standing up for justice and is willing to, walk at the front of a line. I'm talking about when you're overgiving, overgiving, overgiving. Um, and here's how you can tell a martyr. We had a martyr working for us for a while, and she was a great teacher for me. She would come in every morning and she'd say, I was thinking about this problem and that problem, and I couldn't sleep. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got up and I baked cookies to bring in for everybody so you'd feel better all day. And then she'd stay late. And we had a cleaning service. I mean, but she was there saying, I have to make sure all the waste baskets are emptied and blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, you don't. Oh, yes, she did. So martyrs exact a price. The pleaser just stuffs it till they learn how to tell the truth. But the martyr, they sort of know what they're doing and they'll exact a price. And they either want a great big raise, they want a great vacation, they want your firstborn child, but they want, or they want a new car. They want something. They can't get the kid, they'll take a car, whatever. But the martyrs are overwhelmed with taking on everybody's work. But the thing is, most people don't ask them to do it and they do it anyway. They
Right.
take over people's work. So, what does the martyr transform to? An integrator. And an integrator says, no, I'm not doing this all by myself. And you do that part, you do that part, you do that part. The image I have is there's a very big rock that has to go up a very steep hill. And at the top of the hill, they're going to have a picnic. And if the martyr does it, and she gets to the top of the hill, she goes, oh, now I have to get all the food done. I have to do everything. I can't ask anybody to do anything. She can or he can, but they don't. So what happens is that when a martyr becomes an integrator, they integrate into the group rather than having to whine about it. Martyrs are really big whiners,
Big.
big,
Yeah,
but that's not you.
it used to. Okay. I had bits and pieces of all of them, quite frankly. It depended on the mood. I mean, seriously, because manipulation was something that I learned to manipulate to get what I wanted sometimes. I could make a story sound as whatever it needed to sound like. And this is really owning it. I told you guys, in order to achieve the outcome I wanted it to achieve. And it was a talent, for God's sake. Now, to turn that talent is to, in earnest, to ask myself, am I doing, why am I doing what it is that I'm doing? And am I doing this with no attachment to the outcome? No agenda. That's big in my world. No agenda, because I had to really work on this and just allowing what is to be so it's precious rather than trying to make it something that I think it should be in order to make me happy at an outside circumstance, which the happy doesn't happen with any of those circumstances really in the long run, I've discovered it only is a split second. You're, oh, good. But then no. So martyr is I'm actually showed up a lot of, I'm the oldest, you know, I'm
Uh,
going to take on this and that. Yeah, no, I've done that. And so to flip and integrate is integrating into rather than, and then the whining, if you're in gratitude, you can't be whining. Just
perfect.
saying. Just saying. You can't whine if you're practicing gratitude. It's just, I don't know. I've never heard anybody whine gratefully. Have you?
Well, it's very interesting because again, Gutsy is about how women leaders make change, and
Yeah.
certainly, and I love that you have men on this show too. And it works for men. They have the avoider men. You are more avoiders than we as women. We'll stay with it while you're running. We'll run after you if we have to.
Yeah, really,
But
really, really fast too.
yeah, and the denier is another one. This is kind of unisex, the denier, and then I'll go back to the one I want to talk about with women too. But in the denier, it's literally you don't see it. And what I've been doing, and it's kind of uncomfortable for people, deniers can not see. NOTSEE. You can write those words down and look at them and say them fast, and it makes you shudder. Deniers can not, NOTSEE. Say it fast, not see. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a powerful one because it's like ignoring what's really, it's not really a problem. That's not really happening. And the
Okay.
first time I saw that, it gave me, I was shuddering from the idea of Nazi and looking back. And, we're going through things in this culture right now where a lot of people are not seeing. I just want to leave it there. We'll do it. But the denier, when they can finally tell the truth, they really can move things into trust building because it's like they're saying, yeah, this really is going on and we really have to handle it. And no, we can't ignore it. So that's another one. I just threw that one in. But the other one for women often is the procrastinator. And
Mm.
it's why do we the procrastinator, I in the program I have, the Gutsy Women Lead program, I have something in there about the procrastinator. And one of the things that happens is they say, well, I'll have the work done for you tomorrow. And then the next day you say, well, where is it? They say, I never told you which tomorrow. I just said tomorrow.
They get you on a
And
technicality?
ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I never said which tomorrow.
Mm.
But why do people procrastinate? And I am convinced that these patterns that we have now, if you don't do the deep dive into understanding, you're going to miss 90% of where it comes from. And the procrastinator often was a child in the family who, and I'm not asking you to answer this one, Debbie, but, when there are many siblings, often there's one who doesn't seem to be able to do it or be as fast as the others. And they learn to hold back. And the procrastinator, people say, oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're not smart. And I'll go, that's baloney. It's because they don't want to hear that it's not good enough. So if you hold back, you get an extra day, an extra week to be told, so you don't have to hear, no, that's not right. So it's fear that keeps procrastinators procrastinating.
And what's the
And
flip?
the procrastinator becomes, my God, I just lost it. What the heck does it, quick? What's in the book? The procrastinator becomes, I want to say an initiator, but that's not it.
We're
So
gonna
help
look in the
me.
we're gonna
I
look in the
have to
book.
look. Where
I'm
is
gonna go
it?
look in the book.
Where is it? That's so funny. I had a little brain. Here we go. The procrastinator. Oh no, that doesn't have the opposites here. Help. Come on, Sylvia, find it. Yike. I thought I was in here. Okay. Um, that's very interesting. Here we
Prob-
go. The procrastinator. That was really interesting. That was a kind of mind thing. The procrastinator. We call them, that's why I forgot it, because I don't like the way we translate it. Becomes a realizer. They make it happen. They
okay.
they they will take it that way. I apologize for that, but I've been thinking about changing that one. So that's what happened to me just then.
I'm really actually loving this because they make things happen. So far I've resonated with all four, all four. And I love that. And I'm happy to say I'm working on the flips. I'm working on the flips. Procrastination especially.
You? I don't believe
Oh,
that one.
because I am the action taker now. But I have in my life, oh no, I've had procrastination. I've got okay, I have procrastination with getting up off my hiney and going for that walk that I know I need to be going for, that I'm just, this leads me over into that 5 second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, make a decision, get out there and do something, right? How do you break that habit? But this is again going back to the understanding. What you said was is that you have to take a deep dive and you have to really identify where this is stemming from in order to be able to recognize it, see it, flip it. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. But the opposite of that is you don't know something till you know it. So now y'all are knowing it. So now I encourage you to do that you just go deeper to see where it stems from. But I truly see little pieces of my old behaviors. I see there are some flips, and I'm also seeing some spaces that I can have more mindfulness with right now, and so I'm loving this. Not see, not see, not see. Now, I'm not saying Nazi, Nazi, not see. How important is this? We're choosing to not see and just avoid it like it's not there. I think that this is, and this is what just my opinion is, but I think this is part of the love and light fiasco. I love the love and light, and I love the energy of love and light, but it is a very big. Sometimes it's a not see reality. In my world, when I was experiencing it, it didn't seem like that I could love and light it to death and it was going to go and get fixed. I had to really face it and deal with it. I tried to do that, and I think that the other term people use is spiritual bypass. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I think that the Nazi is the spiritual. Well, obviously, a Nazi is a spiritual bypass. Nothing spiritual. Well, actually, you never know.
Well, let
Uh,
me throw
yeah,
this in here because this is really important.
yeah,
The main work that we do as we do it is relational. You
mm,
can't just do it internally. It's not
yeah,
possible. And one of my major spiritual teachers, I was working with these ideas and going back in the understanding and looking at the dynamics. The things that form us are family, duh, of course, culture, yeah, and crises. Those are the three things that really stay with us. And what happens is when you go to understanding, you have to go back. But the power and where I have seen the transformations be the best. This is you go back, you understand, you look at the family, you look at the culture, you look at crises that happen. Then in transformation, you do the work that you do is relational. It's not just internal. You can't meditate this stuff into being. You can,
yeah,
it helps, but you go back as much to what I call the real actors in your specific play and talk to them. And that is for most people so scary. And for a lot of people, it's telling the truth, which is not spilling your guts, and being able to go back and talk with mother, father, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles. If people aren't still on the planet, if they've moved to other dimensions, you go to the closest person you can here to talk with, and those
yeah.
conversations. are often very scary. They take some time. That's where you have to talk about strength training. That's where it comes from. It comes from opening up the relationships that are stuck or broken. Make
That's just
sense?
that's gorgeous. I love that. It's reminding me of how a diamond is made, the
Mm,
pressure, you
yeah.
know, intense pressure over time, you know.
You have
Now,
to go through the tumbler.
you do, but it's what's interesting is that when I've been learning how to respond to the tumbling different, so it's changing on how it feels. And let's face it, the fear, the stuff we walk through that's scary is just scary. It's scarier thinking about it before you get to it than it is when it actually happens. Have you ever had that one like conversation you know you have to have, but you don't want to have it because you're like, I really don't want to deal with this kind of thing because I really don't. That's the whole not seeing thing. I have one of those right now going on in my life. That's my mother, who I love. I
Uh-huh.
adore my mother. You would adore my mother. She's written 5 books. She's extraordinary. She's
Wow.
got her PhD. She's phenomenal. But we might see things a little bit differently on the spiritual realm right now, you know? So, I mean, I'm woo woo to the wow wow, and, she's a little bit more Christian based. And I'm not too sure that that matches really well all the time. But that's not, but this is one of those that, so what do I do with that? I reach out to her anyway. That's what I've been doing. I do it anyway because, well, gosh darn, I mean, I'm way fun. I know she's missing that. So the most challenging one is the one that's just like you, right? Which of your kids? I know that my son, I mean, I know which one is it's the one that's most likely. I'm most like my mom, you know? And what all this has been showing me is I'm still here and breathing, and I've walked through a ton of fear. So if
Hmm.
there's anything out there that's scary, just do it. Just do it. But I love that you have brought that forward because I'm thinking about it now, thinking I'm going to write another letter to my mother. And if she doesn't respond, that's okay. I'm not going to fear the rejection, but rather accept where she's at.
Well, let me see if this will help. This is a mother story. Okay. So
Okay.
my father died suddenly of a heart attack when I was 14. And it was not pretty. It was not fun. And then,
Mm,
my brother went off to medical school, and I'm there with my mother. And we were very close, a little too close. She, was kind of always telling me what to do or not do. And I go, yes, mother. And I do what I wanted most of the time, but it was still there. So now my kids are little, and we had a rule. It was a simple rule. It was no eating in the car on short drives because it got messy. So I would pick her up, and I'd have Julie and Michaela in the back seats, and she would get in the car and hand them potato chips or pretzels or something. And I go, Mother, we have an agreement. And she said, oh dear, I'm their grandmother. I can do what I want. And I would be driving the car, knuckling the steering wheel. And finally, as I was learning all of this, I went uh, to see her. No, we did this on the phone. No, no, I'm sorry. The beginning of this is I picked her up. It was just the two of us. We're in the car. So neither of us could leave. We couldn't go anywhere else. And I say, Mother, this really has to stop. And it's getting in the way of our relationship. And if it continues, we're both going to lose, but you're going to lose even bigger because I'm not going to bring your grandchildren around to see you. So it got really icy and quiet in the car. We get back to her house. We were supposed to go out to dinner, and all of a sudden she's not hungry. I mean, to lunch. She's not hungry. We go back, and she said, see you, dear. And she closes the door a lot harder than a door needs to be closed and marches up to her apartment. And I went, oh, what do I do now? So I go home. This is very funny. And the next day, I waited a day because the pleaser in me was going to hold off. I waited a day and I called. And she heard my voice and she said, oh, are you calling to apologize? And I said, no. So she said, then you have the wrong number. And she hung up on me.
oh,
So I let it sit because I knew we were in the middle to have to change this for us, for my kids, for her. And I waited a day, and the next day I called, and she said, she heard my voice. She said, I'll ask again, are you calling to apologize? I said, no. She said, then you still have the wrong number. And she hung up on me.
Oh,
So I,
goodness.
so I got in the car and I went over, and we had about a 2 hour roller coaster discussion that went up and down. If I had a nickel for every time I said, well, if that's how you feel, I'm leaving. Or she would say, well, if that's how you feel, you better leave. I mean, it just kept going. But by the end, we found that we had to redesign a more mature grown up relationship that wasn't based on guilt or based on me having to do what she wanted. And all I can tell you is from that moment on, we became friends and mother and daughter as grown ups. And that lasted till she passed. But
Oh,
it took that. So if that helps you, Debbie,
it
it
does, and
may.
I have no problem driving over to I'll tell you what, I'll keep everybody posted. I heard you.
Okay,
I heard you. That's
perfect.
communication, and I'm really good at imagining what's real for her in her life and stepping in with an empathetic heart to have understanding of another person's reality. You know, that's really and I love her and adore her no matter where she's at, no matter what she thinks or no matter what she feels. It doesn't change how I feel. That's all just that's human stuff. That's the human. But that's why we're doing this show so that we can learn how to do human a little easier. That's what spirituality gone wild is all about. How do you do this human thing a little easier? And right here is where that you get a hold of all types of scrumptious uh, articles and workshops and books from Miss Sylvia Lafair. And you had something else you wanted to say.
Well, I did, but I want to throw this in. I'm giving a winter discount for the Gutsy Women Lead program. So it's going to ceoptions.com/apply, and you can
Okay,
get there. Yeah. So it's a good deal.
it's
And it's
slash
in
apply.
slash apply. And it's including 2 coaching sessions. And from your group, the first 5 who sign up will get me as their coach twice. I mean, I have wonderful coaches that I've trained over the years, but you're just, I'm telling you, we have to meet and go out, and whenever
Yeah, I'm
COVID is over, and keep
ser-
going. Yeah.
seriously. I want to bring this up so everybody can see it. It's good to be gutsy. This is the program that she's talking about, and I want everybody to check this out. And you'll be able to see this in our brand new Grateful Living e-zine that's going to be distributed on Friday. Look for Jonathan and Andy Goldman. They're on the cover, and look for a gorgeous story inside from our wonderful Sylvia Lafair. And this program right here is what y'all need to do to step into your gutsy.
Perfect.
There
Yeah.
you go. Gutsy.
Yeah.
Get your
But
gutsy on.
Debbie, do I have a minute? Because I want to put
Of
this
course you have a
spiritual thing.
minute.
Okay.
Hmm.
I mentioned it earlier. I have a spiritual teacher, very wise spiritual teacher. And one day, people don't like to go back and do the deeper family work where the conflict is, or the questioning is, or the unanswered things are sitting. And I finally said, listen, nobody wants to do it. And I like easy, not difficult. So if it doesn't matter, I don't want to bother. And the answer was, after some silence, dearest Sylvia, do you not think that we have created family as an important aspect of your planetary journey? And what was said was, the computers on your planet, in your realm, are mere child's toys to compare to what we use here to put together the combinations of people who will learn from each other in their lives. And he said, you keep going with family. You're on the right track. So I give that to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's seriously. Okay, we're going to have you back and like unpack that entire thing too, because that's just out of this world. Literally.
Literally.
Literally. So I want to thank everybody who's been on today. I saw you. I've seen your comments. I love them. Karen Palmer, she says you are both so inspiring. Thank you. And Karen, we love you very much. She's been our partner at SGW for a long, long time. And Jed, you are really cool. Thank you. And thank you, Shar, and everybody else that joined us. And Sylvia, thank you so much for being here
Oh,
today.
thank
And
you.
you are delightful. Absolutely delightful. So check out Spirituality Gone Wild, everybody, and all the great shows. If you missed Steve Weber, check him out. He was there this morning. All the replays are available on Spirituality Gone Wild. And I shall catch you all on the flip. Bye.